The night sky above Earth looked normal, but it was not normal at all. Huge alien ships moved through the dark clouds like giant shadows that nobody could see. The ships were so big they could cover entire cities, but their special hiding technology made them invisible to all human machines and computers. The alien empire called the Vorthans had been watching Earth for many years. They studied human weapons and human armies and decided that humans were weak and stupid creatures that would be easy to defeat. Captain Hyun-Woo Kim lay flat on the cold desert ground in Nevada. His special night vision glasses helped him see in the complete darkness. His job was to watch for enemy activity, but he had no idea that real enemies from space were coming toward Earth. His team was called Ghost Phoenix, and they were the best secret soldiers in the American military. So Young Lee was hiding behind a big rock 30 meters to his left, and Ji-ho Park was positioned near some old equipment to his right. All three soldiers had been friends for many years and had completed many dangerous missions together. The Korean-American officer had spent 5 years training for impossible situations. His team specialized in fighting enemies who had better weapons and more soldiers. They knew how to hide and attack and disappear before anyone could catch them. But tonight felt different from all their other missions. The electromagnetic sensors they carried were showing strange readings that did not match any known aircraft or missiles. Something very big and very advanced was moving through the sky above them. General Thek's Era stood on the command deck of his massive warship and looked down at the small blue planet below him. His species had conquered 47 different worlds using the same simple plan: attack at night when the enemies are sleeping, destroy their military bases and government buildings, capture the survivors, and make them slaves. The Vorthans were 7 feet tall with 4 powerful arms and thick armor like skin that could stop most bullets and explosions. Their technology was thousands of years more advanced than anything humans had ever built. The alien general felt very confident about this invasion. His intelligence officers had told him that humans were divided into many different countries that fought each other all the time. Their weapons were primitive, and their armies were small compared to Vorthan forces. The plan was perfect: strike fast and hard before the humans could organize any real resistance. Within 24 hours, Earth would belong to the Vorthan Empire, and its billions of inhabitants would become property of the Imperial Crown. Hyun-Woo felt his encrypted communication device vibrate against his chest with an emergency signal. His commanding officers were sending an urgent alert about unidentified aircraft approaching the secret military facility where his team was stationed. The readings showed objects moving at speeds that should have been impossible for any Earth technology. They were also flying in formation patterns that suggested military organization and tactical planning. This was not a natural phenomenon or a weather event. So Young immediately began checking her explosive devices and weapons. Her specialty was demolitions, and she always carried enough firepower to level a small building. Ji-ho started working with his electronic equipment that could hack into enemy communication systems and computer networks. Both soldiers had noticed the same strange energy readings that their team leader was seeing. Their training told them to prepare for contact with unknown hostile forces. The first Vorthan attack ships began landing near the military base at exactly midnight local time. The alien soldiers who stepped out of the craft were confident and relaxed. They expected to find sleeping guards and maybe a few night shift workers who would surrender immediately instead of fighting. Their previous conquests had always gone exactly according to plan. The local military forces would be caught completely off guard and would collapse within hours of the initial attack. But something was wrong with this mission. The military base appeared to be almost completely empty. There were lights on in some buildings, but no vehicles moving around the compound, and no guards visible at their normal posts. The silence was too complete and too organized. It felt like the entire facility had been abandoned in a hurry, or like someone had been expecting their arrival and had prepared for it. Hyun-Woo watched the alien soldiers through his rifle scope and counted at least 20 warriors moving toward the main buildings. Their armor looked incredibly advanced, and their weapons glowed with some kind of energy that he had never seen before. Each alien moved with the confidence of a professional soldier who had won many battles. The way they coordinated their advance showed years of military training and combat experience. The Korean officer made a quick decision that would change the course of human history. He activated his communication system and began recording everything he could observe about the alien technology and tactics his team needed to gather as much intelligence as possible about these creatures before engaging them in combat. Ji-ho was already trying to intercept their radio signals, while So-young was quietly moving her explosives into better positions. The Vortan commander, Sub-General Kexmore, led his troops toward the central command building of the human facility. He had personally overseen the conquest of 12 different planets and had never encountered serious resistance from primitive species. The humans were supposed to be even weaker than most of the other races his empire had enslaved. Their technology was barely capable of space travel, and their weapons were still based on chemical explosions rather than energies. The alien forces moved deeper into the facility. They began to realize that something was definitely not normal about this mission. The buildings were too quiet, and the lack of any human presence was starting to feel like a trap rather than good. Kexmore ordered his soldiers to be more careful and to watch for signs of ambush or hidden weapons. But his species had never fought an enemy that specialized in guerrilla warfare and psychological tactics. Yun-woo made the decision to make direct contact with the alien commander. He left his hiding position and walked calmly into the main building, where he sat down at a desk in the central command room. His team members were shocked, but they trusted their leader completely. Ji-ho continued monitoring alien communications while So-young prepared her explosive charges for remote detonation. Min-ho moved to a sniper position where he could provide covering fire if needed. The facility's motion sensors and security cameras were recording everything that happened. The footage would later be analyzed by military experts around the world, who would use this information to prepare Earth's defenses against future alien attacks. Hyun-woo knew that his actions in the next few hours might determine whether humanity survived as a free species or became slaves to an alien empire. When the Vorthan soldiers entered the command room and found a single human sitting calmly at a desk, their commander was confused and suspicious. This was not how conquered species were supposed to behave. The human should have been running in terror or begging for mercy. Instead, he appeared to be waiting for them as if this meeting had been planned. The alien general began to wonder if his intelligence about human capabilities had been completely wrong. The Vorthan soldiers filled the command room with their massive presence. Each warrior stood 7 feet tall and wore armor that looked like it was made from metal and crystal combined. Their forearms moved independently as they checked their weapons and secured the area. Sub-General Kexmore approached the desk where Hyun-woo sat without moving. The alien commander had conquered dozens of worlds, but had never seen a primitive species remain so calm when facing superior technology and certain death. Hyun-woo kept his hands visible on the desk, and his eyes focused on the alien leader. He had trained for hostage situations and psychological warfare for many years. His job was to appear non-threatening while gathering as much information as possible about enemy capabilities and weaknesses. Every detail he observed could save human lives when Earth's military forces planned their response to this invasion. The alien commander activated a translation device on his armor and spoke, in a voice that sounded like rocks grinding together. He demanded to know why the human was not afraid, and where the rest of the facility's personnel had gone. Hyun-woo answered in clear English, knowing that Ji-ho was recording every word through their encrypted communication system. The Korean officer described what he could see of their technology, weapons, and tactical procedures. While appearing to answer the aliens' questions, Kexmore was becoming increasingly frustrated with this strange human behavior. In 47 previous conquests, no primitive species had ever shown such composure when facing Vorthan forces. The human appeared to be studying the alien soldiers, rather than cowering in fear. This was completely outside the general's experience and training. He decided to demonstrate Vorthan power by destroying some equipment with his plasma weapon. The energy blast that vaporized a computer terminal filled the room with bright light and the smell of melted metal and plastic. Hyun-woo did not flinch or show any fear reaction. Instead, he continued speaking calmly into his hidden communication device and describing the weapon's energy output and recharge time. His team was learning valuable information about alien technology that could be used to develop countermeasures. So-young had spent the 30 minutes since the aliens landed, moving through the facility's maintenance tunnels and placing explosive charges at strategic locations. Her demolitions training had taught Her how to bring down buildings in specific ways that would create maximum confusion while providing escape routes for friendly forces. She was not trying to kill the alien soldiers immediately, but rather to trap them and limit their movement. Options Minho had climbed to the highest tower in the facility complex and was studying the alien landing craft through his sniper scope. His rifle could not penetrate their main armor plating, but he had identified several potential weak points where joints and equipment connections might be vulnerable. The Korean marksman had modified his ammunition with armor-piercing cores that might be able to damage alien technology. Ji-ho was having remarkable success with his electronic warfare equipment. The alien communication system used frequencies and encryption methods that were advanced but not impossible to crack. His computer programs were designed to decode unknown languages, and after listening to 30 minutes of alien radio traffic, he was beginning to understand their basic tactical terminology. The Vorthans were calling humans livestock and discussing how to process survivors for slave labor. The intelligence that Ji-ho gathered was immediately transmitted to military command centers around the world. Earth's defensive forces were learning that this was not a first contact situation or a diplomatic mission. The aliens intended to conquer humanity completely and treat survivors as property. The invasion was planned to be swift and brutal with no consideration for human rights or survival. Kexmore decided that the interrogation had gone on long enough. Without warning, he grabbed Hyun-woo by the shirt and lifted him off the ground with two of his forearms. The alien general intended to demonstrate that humans were physically inferior and helpless against Vorthon strength. But the Korean officer had trained extensively in combat against larger opponents and immediately used leverage and joint manipulation to break free from the alien's grip. The brief physical confrontation gave Hyun-woo the chance to test the alien's reaction time and strength limits. He discovered that while the Vorthons were much stronger than humans, they were also slower and less flexible. Their armor provided excellent protection but also limited their mobility and speed. The information would be crucial for training human soldiers to fight alien warriors in close combat, so Young activated her explosive charges throughout the facility at exactly the 30-minute mark. The carefully placed demolitions collapsed specific corridors and sealed certain exits, while leaving others open. The goal was not to trap the aliens permanently, but to force them to retreat through predictable routes where human forces could engage them more effectively. The explosions created chaos and confusion among the Vorthon soldiers, who had expected easy conquest rather than organized resistance. Their communication system was partially jammed by Ji-ho's electronic warfare, which prevented them from coordinating their response effectively. Several alien warriors were injured by falling debris, and the squad's confidence was badly shaken. Minho began his sniper attacks as soon as the explosions provided cover and distraction. His first shots targeted the aliens' weapon systems rather than their bodies. He discovered that their energy weapons had vulnerable power connections that could be severed with precisely aimed bullets. Each disabled weapon forced an alien soldier to rely on backup systems or hand-to-hand combat. Hyun-woo used the confusion to access the alien commander's equipment and download data files onto a portable storage device. His team had developed procedures for capturing enemy technology and intelligence during combat operations. The information he gathered included tactical plans, communication codes, and technical specifications that would be invaluable for Earth's defense. The Vorthon retreat from the facility was disorganized and costly. They had lost several soldiers to injuries and equipment failures, while gaining almost no useful intelligence about human capabilities. Instead of the quick victory they had expected, they found themselves fighting an enemy that had turned their advantages into disadvantages. Kexmore's report to the Vorthon High Command described human forces that were far more capable and organized than their intelligence had suggested. The primitive species had demonstrated advanced tactical thinking, electronic warfare capabilities, and weapons that could damage Vorthon equipment. The general recommended sending additional forces and revising their conquest strategy. Earth's military leadership received complete recordings of the alien encounter within hours of the facility's liberation. The intelligence gathered by Hyun-woo's team revealed the true scope of the threat facing humanity. The aliens possessed superior technology, but they were not invincible. Their tactics relied on overwhelming force and intimidation, rather than adaptability. General Patricia Morrison, who commanded Earth's most classified defense programs, immediately authorized the formation of Task Force Phoenix Hyun-woo, would lead an international team of specialists trained in asymmetric warfare against technologically superior enemies. The mission was simple: prevent the alien empire from conquering Earth by any means necessary. The captured alien technology and intelligence data were distributed to research facilities and military units around the world. Human scientists and engineers began working to develop countermeasures and weapons that could level the playing field against the Vorthan Empire. The first battle had been won, but the war for Earth's survival was just beginning. 2 weeks after the first alien attack, every military base on Earth was preparing for the next phase of the invasion. Hyun-woo and his team had been promoted and given command of the newly formed Task Force Phoenix, which included special operations, soldiers from 12 different countries. So Young was training demolitions experts in major cities around the world, teaching them how to use captured alien technology against the invaders themselves. The Vorthan High Command had received Sub-General Kexmore's report with anger and disbelief. Emperor Vextar himself reviewed the combat footage and could not understand how a primitive species had successfully resisted their elite assault forces. The humans had demonstrated tactical abilities that should have been impossible for such a young civilization. The Empire's standard conquest procedures would need to be completely revised. Ji-ho had established a global communication network that connected resistance cells and military units in every major city on Earth. His electronic warfare techniques were being taught to cyber specialists worldwide who were learning how to hack alien computer systems and disrupt their communications. Human forces were no longer reacting to alien attacks but were preparing to take the initiative. The second wave of Vorthan ships approached Earth with much larger forces and heavier weapons. General Thex Era commanded a fleet of 50 warships carrying over 10,000 elite soldiers. The alien commander was determined to crush human resistance through overwhelming firepower and superior numbers. He had brought enough force to conquer 3 normal planets. Min-ho had shared his sniper techniques with marksmen around the world. Thousands of specially trained shooters now knew exactly where to aim to disable alien armor and weapons systems. The weak points he had identified in Vorthan equipment were being targeted by modified ammunition designed specifically for anti-alien warfare. Underground resistance networks had been established with civilian populations trained to provide intelligence and support. The aliens began their second assault at dawn over 12 major cities simultaneously: New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, Beijing. Sydney and 6 other metropolitan areas came under attack by massive alien warships that blocked out the sun. But this time the cities were ready. Every major building had been converted into a fortress, and every street had been prepared as a battlefield. Hyun-woo coordinated the global defense from a mobile command center that could move between cities as needed. His expanded team now included specialists in urban warfare, electronic systems, and psychological operations. The Korean officer had studied the alien tactics from the first attack and developed strategies that would turn their own strengths against them. The Vorthan landing forces expected to find panicked civilians and disorganized military resistance. Instead, they encountered empty streets and silent buildings that had been evacuated hours before the attack began. Human forces had learned to track alien ship movements and could predict where they would land with remarkable accuracy. So Young's demolition teams had spent weeks preparing the urban battlefields. Every major intersection had been rigged with explosives designed to channel alien ground forces into predetermined killing zones. Subway tunnels had been converted into trap networks, and skyscrapers had been turned into sniper positions with overlapping fields of fire. The first alien soldiers to land in New York found themselves in a maze of blocked streets and collapsed buildings that forced them to move through narrow passages where their superior numbers meant nothing. Human defenders appeared from manholes, rooftops, and abandoned buildings, struck hard with anti-armor weapons, and disappeared before the aliens could respond. Ji-ho's cyber warfare teams had successfully infiltrated the alien communication network and were feeding false information to Vorthan commanders. The aliens thought they were fighting scattered groups of survivors, but were actually facing coordinated military units that knew their every move. Electronic jamming prevented the invaders from calling for backup or coordinating their attacks effectively. Min-ho led a team of international snipers in the battle for Manhattan. The marksmen had positioned themselves in buildings throughout the city and were picking off alien officers and technical specialists with precision shots that targeted equipment and weak points rather than attempting to penetrate main armor plating. The psychological effect of constant sniper fire was devastating to alien morale. The Vorthan soldiers had trained for conventional warfare against enemies who would stand and fight in open battles. They had no experience with guerrilla tactics or urban warfare, where the enemy could be anywhere and strike from any direction. Their superior technology meant nothing when they could not find targets to shoot at. General Thek's era watched from his command ship as his forces became bogged down in street fighting that made no tactical sense. The humans refused to mass their forces for conventional battles and instead fought like shadows that appeared and disappeared without warning. His casualties were mounting while his soldiers advanced very slowly through the defended cities. The turning point came when So Young's teams simultaneously destroyed 6 alien landing zones using the invaders' own weapon systems against them. The captured alien technology had been reverse-engineered and turned into massive explosives that could penetrate Vorthon ship armor. The aliens suddenly found themselves cut off from their supply lines and reinforcements. Hyun Woo realized that the moment had come to shift from defensive to offensive operations. He ordered Task Force Phoenix units around the world to begin hunting alien commanders and communication centers rather than just defending their positions. The humans were going to take the fight directly to the enemy leadership. The battle for London became a perfect example of human tactical adaptation. British Special Forces had learned to use the city's ancient tunnel systems to move unseen beneath alien positions. They would emerge behind Vorthan lines, attack command posts and communication equipment, then disappear back underground before enemy reinforcements could arrive. Tokyo's defense centered around the use of the city's massive subway network as a 3-dimensional battlefield. Human forces could travel quickly between different areas, while alien soldiers were forced to fight on the surface where they were exposed to constant sniper fire and explosive attacks. The Vorthans found themselves fighting an enemy they could not pin down or defeat in Moscow. Russian forces had developed techniques for attacking alien aircraft using modified surface-to-air missiles, with electromagnetic pulse warheads that could disable Vorthan electronics. Several alien ships were brought down by these weapons, and their wreckage provided valuable intelligence about enemy technology and capabilities. The psychological warfare aspect of the urban battles was perhaps more important than the physical combat itself. The aliens had expected easy conquest and quick victory. Instead, they found themselves in a grinding war of attrition against an enemy that seemed to know their every move and counter their every strategy as the second day of fighting ended. General Thek's era received reports from all 12 battle zones that his forces were making little progress and taking heavy casualties. The humans had somehow learned to fight effectively against superior alien technology and were using tactics that neutralized most Vorthon advantages. The alien commander faced a decision that no Vorthan general had ever confronted before. He could continue the assault and risk losing his entire invasion force, or he could retreat and report to the Empire that a primitive species had successfully resisted their military might. Either choice would have serious consequences for his career and for the Vorthan Empire's reputation. Hyun Woo sensed that the aliens were beginning to doubt their ability to win a quick victory. The intelligence gathered by his teams suggested that the invaders were not prepared for a long campaign against determined resistance. Task Force Phoenix was ready to begin the next phase of operations, hunting the hunters who had thought Earth would be easy prey. 6 months after the space battle that destroyed the Vorthan Third Battle Fleet, Earth had become a completely different world. The captured alien technology was being mass-produced in factories around the globe, and human colonies were being established on Mars and the Moon using Vorthon transportation and life support systems. Humanity was no longer limited to one planet. Hyun Woo now held the rank of general and commanded Earth's first interstellar defense force. Task Force Phoenix had grown from a small special operations unit into a massive military organization with bases throughout the solar system. So Young had become the leading expert on alien technology and was developing weapons that combined human innovation with Vorthon engineering. Interrogation of captured Vorthon officers had revealed crucial information about the alien empire. The Vorthons ruled over 47 conquered species, but their control was maintained through fear and superior technology rather than loyalty. Many of the enslaved races were planning rebellions and waiting for the right moment to strike against their oppressors. Ji-Ho had established secret communication links with rebel groups throughout Vorthon space. The electronic warfare techniques that had been so effective against the aliens were now being used to coordinate resistance movements on dozens of different worlds. The Vorthon Empire was facing internal threats that it had never experienced before. General Thek's era remained a prisoner on Earth, but had become an unlikely source of intelligence about Vorthon military operations. The proud alien commander had been broken by his defeat and was now cooperating with human interrogators who treated him with more respect than his own empire had shown to conquered peoples. The Vorthon High Command was struggling to understand how their empire's military superiority had been so completely defeated by a primitive species. Intelligence reports from Earth described human weapons and tactics that seemed impossible for such a young civilization. The Emperor was beginning to question whether the conquest of Earth was worth the enormous costs. Min-Ho was leading training programs for human pilots who were learning to operate captured Vorthon starships. The alien vessels were incredibly advanced, but human pilots were proving to be more adaptable and creative than their original Vorthon crews. The combination of superior technology with human tactics was creating the most effective space fleet in the galaxy. Earth scientists were making breakthrough discoveries almost daily by studying alien technology. Medical advances based on Vorthon biotechnology were eliminating diseases that had plagued humanity. For centuries, energy systems that had taken the aliens thousands of years to develop were being improved by human engineers within months. The first human expedition to alien space launched 8 months after the Great Space Battle. A fleet of modified Vorthon ships carried diplomatic and military personnel to make contact with the rebel species that were fighting against the Empire. Hyun-Woo personally led the mission along with his original team members, who had become legends throughout Earth. The target was a star system called Nexar, where 3 different species had joined together to resist Vorthon rule. The rebels had been fighting a hopeless war against superior technology for over 50 years, but the arrival of human allies with captured alien weapons changed everything. The balance of power was about to shift dramatically. So Young had developed new types of explosives that were specifically designed to destroy Vorthon military installations and command centers. Her techniques were being taught to rebel forces throughout the galaxy who had never before possessed weapons capable of threatening their oppressors. The psychological effect of successful attacks was spreading revolution across multiple worlds. The Battle of Nexar became the first major victory of the interstellar rebellion against the Vorthon Empire human ships, and tactics combined with local knowledge and desperate courage to defeat a Vorthon occupation force that had controlled the system for decades. The victory inspired uprisings throughout the Empire. Ji-Ho's communication networks allowed rebel forces to coordinate their attacks for maximum effect. Simultaneous strikes against Vorthon installations occurred in 12 different star systems, creating chaos and confusion throughout the alien empire. The Vorthons found themselves fighting wars on multiple fronts against enemies they had considered defeated. The Vorthon Emperor, Vextar, faced the greatest crisis in the Empire's 1,000-year history. Rebellions were spreading faster than his forces could contain them, and the humans were providing the rebels with weapons and tactics that neutralized Vorthon technological advantages. The Empire was beginning to collapse from within. General Thexara had provided detailed information about Vorthon military weaknesses and command structures that proved invaluable for planning attacks against the Empire. His cooperation with human forces was motivated partly by guilt over the atrocities his species had committed and partly by genuine respect for human courage and determination. The second major engagement between human and Vorthon forces occurred in the Keldara system, where the aliens had established a major military base. The battle demonstrated that human tactics and captured alien technology could defeat even the most heavily defended Vorthon positions. Entire alien fleets were being destroyed by enemies they had once considered primitive. Min Ho had trained rebel snipers throughout the galaxy in the techniques that had proven so effective against Vorthon forces. The precision shooting methods developed during Earth's urban battles were being used on dozens of different worlds to eliminate alien commanders and technical specialists. The psychological warfare aspect was devastating to Vorthon. Morale Earth itself had become the center of a galactic resistance movement that was providing weapons training and tactical support to oppressed species throughout Vorthon space. The planet that had once been marked for conquest was now the headquarters of the rebellion that was tearing the alien empire apart. The human expeditionary forces were achieving victories that seemed impossible just 1 year earlier. Vorthon military bases that had controlled entire sectors for centuries were being captured by combined human and rebel forces, using tactics that the aliens could not counter. The Empire was losing the war against enemies it had once enslaved, so Young's explosive devices had destroyed 3 major Vorthon shipyards and several important command centers. The aliens were losing the ability to replace their losses while human forces were growing stronger, with each captured ship and weapons system. The momentum of the war had shifted completely. Hyunwoo realized that humanity had become more than just survivors of an alien invasion. They had become the leaders of a galactic revolution that was freeing enslaved species throughout the galaxy. The courage and determination that had saved Earth was now spreading hope to billions of oppressed beings. The Vorthon Empire that had seemed invincible just 18 months earlier was now fighting for its survival against enemies who refused to be conquered. The humans had taught the galaxy that superior technology could not defeat superior spirit, and that freedom was worth any sacrifice. As the rebellion spread to more star systems, the Vorthons faced a choice between negotiating for peace or watching their empire collapse completely. The species that had ruled through fear and oppression for 1,000 years was learning what happened when their victims found the courage to fight back. The tables had turned completely from the night when alien ships first approached Earth thinking they would find easy prey. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant that would not rest until every enslaved species in the galaxy was free. The humans had become the hunters and the Vorthons were now the hunted. The Vorthon Empire's capital world of Keth Prime received the battle reports from Earth with shock and rage that had not been felt for 300 years. No primitive species in the galaxy had ever successfully resisted a full-scale Vorthon invasion. The military high command called an emergency meeting to discuss how a race that had barely developed space travel could defeat their elite forces. Emperor Vex Tar studied the combat footage from Earth's cities and could not believe what he was seeing. Human soldiers were using tactics and strategies that seemed impossible for such a young civilization. They moved like experienced warriors who had fought against superior technology for generations. Their ability to adapt and improvise during battle was unlike anything in the Vorthon military database. The Emperor made a decision that would change the course of the war. He ordered the deployment of the 3rd Battle Fleet, which contained over 100 warships and 50,000 of the Empire's most experienced soldiers. The humans would face a force capable of conquering an entire star system. The invasion of Earth would become the largest military operation in recent Vorthon history. On Earth, Hyunwoo received intelligence, reports that massive alien reinforcements were approaching the solar system. The captured enemy communications revealed that the Vorthons were bringing enough firepower to level continents and eliminate all human resistance. Task Force Phoenix had perhaps 2 weeks to prepare Earth's defenses for the final battle. General Patricia Morrison authorized the activation of every classified military project and secret weapon system that Earth possessed. Underground factories began mass-producing anti-alien weapons based on captured technology. Civilian populations in major cities were evacuated to underground shelters that had been secretly constructed over the previous decades. So Young was leading the construction of planetary defense networks in every major population center. Her teams were installing electromagnetic pulse cannons that could disable alien ships and creating underground command bunkers that could coordinate resistance operations even if surface facilities were destroyed. The entire planet was being turned into a fortress. Ji-Ho had established communication links with secret military installations around the world that most people did not know existed. Earth's governments had been preparing for extraterrestrial threats for much longer than the public realized. Hidden research facilities had been developing advanced weapons and defensive systems for possible alien contact. The Korean cyber warfare specialist had also discovered something remarkable in the alien communication networks. The Vorthan Empire was not as united and powerful as it appeared. Several conquered species were planning rebellions, and some alien commanders were questioning whether the war with Earth was worth the massive casualties. They were taking Min-ho was training sniper teams on every continent, using techniques that had proven effective against alien armor and weapons. His marksmen had learned to work in coordinated groups that could eliminate entire alien squads within minutes. The psychological effect of precise long-range fire had proven to be one of the most effective weapons against Vorthan morale. 3 days before the alien fleet's arrival, Hyun-woo made a decision that surprised everyone in Earth's military command. He proposed launching a preemptive strike against the approaching alien ships using captured Vorthan technology and human pilots who had learned to fly alien craft. The plan was extremely dangerous, but offered the possibility of defeating the invasion before it reached Earth. The captured alien ships had been studied and modified by Earth's best engineers and pilots. A squadron of human pilots had trained intensively to operate Vorthan craft and weapon systems. The plan was to approach the alien fleet disguised as returning Vorthan vessels and attack their command ships from close range before they could organize their defenses. So Young volunteered to lead the boarding parties that would capture alien vessels from the inside. Her expertise with alien technology and explosives made her the ideal choice for the most dangerous part of the mission. The teams would need to fight their way through alien ships and disable them from within, while space battles raged around. Then the space battle began when the Vorthan Third Battle Fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system. General Thex Ara was commanding the largest invasion force in the Empire's recent history. He expected to overwhelm the primitive human defenses within hours and finally complete the conquest that had taken far too long. But the humans struck first using tactics that the aliens had never encountered before. The disguised human ships approached the Vorthan fleet and launched surprise attacks on command vessels while electromagnetic pulse weapons fired from hidden positions throughout the solar system disabled alien electronics and communication systems. Ji-ho was coordinating electronic warfare operations from a command ship that stayed hidden behind one of Earth's moons. His teams had learned to jam alien communications so effectively that Vorthan commanders could not coordinate their fleet movements. The massive alien armada found itself fighting blind against an enemy that seemed to know their every weakness. The boarding actions led by So Young were successful beyond all expectations. Human soldiers fought through alien ships with determination and skill that shocked the Vorthan defenders. The aliens had never faced enemies willing to board their vessels and fight them in close quarters. Combat where superior technology meant less than courage and tactical skill. Min-ho and his sniper teams were operating from captured alien craft and picking off important targets throughout the enemy fleet. The precision shooting techniques that had worked so well in Earth cities were just as effective in space battles where alien officers and technical specialists could be eliminated with carefully aimed shots. The battle lasted for 18 hours and ended with the complete defeat of the Vorthan Third Battle Fleet. Over 60 alien warships were captured or destroyed while human casualties remained surprisingly low. The tactics and weapons developed during the urban fighting on Earth had proven to be devastatingly effective against even the largest alien forces. General Thex Ara found himself a prisoner aboard his own flagship after human boarding parties had overwhelmed his command crew. The proud Vorthan officer who had conquered dozens of worlds was now facing defeat at the hands of a species his empire had considered primitive livestock. The psychological impact of this reversal was profound. The captured alien fleet provided Earth with enough advanced technology to defend against future attacks and even launch expeditions to other star systems. Humanity had not only survived the Vorthan invasion, but had gained the means to become a spacefaring civilization capable of defending itself against any threat. Emperor Vextar received the news of the Third Battle Fleet's destruction with rage and fear that shook the foundations of the Vorthan Empire. The humans had achieved something that should have been impossible. They had defeated the Empire's finest military forces using tactics and courage that seemed to come from nowhere, Hyun-woo and Task Force Phoenix had accomplished their mission of defending Earth. But they had also done something much more important. They had proven that human determination and adaptability could overcome any technological disadvantage. The species that the aliens had dismissed as primitive had become the most dangerous enemy the Vorthon Empire had ever faced. The war was far from over, but the balance of power had shifted dramatically. Earth was no longer a target for conquest, but had become a threat that the galaxy would have to respect and fear. The humans had learned to fight and win against superior technology, and they were ready to take their place among the stars as equals rather than victims. In the aftermath of the space battle, Earth's governments revealed the truth about the alien threat to their populations. The secret military preparations and advanced weapons projects were no longer classified. The entire human species now knew that they were not alone in the universe, and that they had the strength to defend themselves against any enemy. 2 years after the first alien ship appeared over Earth, the Vorthon Empire was collapsing as rebellions spread across the galaxy like wildfire. 43 of the 47 enslaved species had joined the human-led alliance and were fighting for their freedom with weapons and tactics provided by Task Force Phoenix. The empire that had ruled for 1,000 years was now fighting for its very survival. General Hyun-woo stood on the bridge of the flagship Liberation, a massive Vorthon dreadnought that had been captured and converted into the command ship for the human expeditionary fleet. His original team, So Young Ji-ho and Min-ho, were now commanders of their own divisions, leading the greatest military campaign in galactic history, the liberation of the Vorthon homeworld. Keth Prime Emperor Vextar had retreated to his heavily fortified capital world with the remnants of his fleet and army. The planet was protected by energy shields and defensive systems that had never been penetrated in the Empire's entire history. But the humans and their rebel allies were not using traditional tactics that the Vorthons could understand or counter. So Young had spent months studying the defensive systems around Keth Prime using intelligence provided by former Vorthon officers who had defected to the human cause. Her analysis revealed that the planet's shields were powered by massive energy generators hidden deep underground. The Korean demolitions expert had developed a plan to infiltrate the planet and destroy these generators from within, using techniques that no Vorthon military planner had ever considered. The final battle for galactic freedom began when the human alliance fleet jumped into the Keth Prime system with over 300 ships crewed by humans and representatives from dozens of liberated species. The sight of their former slaves returning as conquerors with superior weapons and tactics was devastating to Vorthon morale throughout the system. Ji-ho had infiltrated the planet's communication networks weeks before the invasion began. His cyber warfare teams were feeding false information to Vorthon commanders while coordinating with resistance cells that had been established on Keth Prime itself. Many of the Empire's own technical specialists had secretly joined the rebellion after witnessing human courage and determination. The assault on the planetary shields required precision timing and coordination between multiple strike teams. So Young led commando units through underground tunnels that connected the shield generators while human ships engaged the Vorthon fleet in space. The demolitions had to be perfectly synchronized, or the mission would fail, and the rebellion could be crushed. Min-ho commanded sniper teams that had been inserted onto Keth Prime months earlier, disguised as maintenance workers and technical support personnel. His marksmen were positioned throughout the capital city, ready to eliminate key targets when the main assault began. The psychological warfare techniques developed on Earth were about to be tested on the Vorthon homeworld. Emperor Vextar watched from his palace as human ships engaged his fleet with tactics that seemed to defy all military logic. The primitive species that he had once dismissed as livestock were outfighting his most experienced commanders using combinations of technology and strategy that his military academies had never taught. The space battle above Keth Prime was the largest engagement in galactic history, with over 500 ships involved in combat that lasted for 12 hours. Human pilots flying captured Vorthon vessels, demonstrated flying skills and tactical creativity that amazed even their rebel allies. The combination of superior technology with human adaptability was unstoppable. When So Young's charges destroyed the first shield generator, a massive explosion lit up the night sky on Keth Prime. The psychological effect on the planet's population was immediate and dramatic. The invincible defenses that had protected them for centuries were being systematically destroyed by enemies they had considered inferior in every way. The ground assault on the Imperial Palace began when the planetary shields finally collapsed after 8 hours of sustained attack by demolition teams working throughout the capital city. Hyun-woo personally led the assault force that fought through the palace defenses, while his team coordinated the final phases of the liberation. Campaign Jiho's electronic warfare systems had completely disrupted Vorthan communications across the planet, preventing enemy forces from coordinating their defense. The alien commanders found themselves fighting blind against human forces that seemed to know their every move. The technological advantages that the Empire had relied upon for centuries meant nothing against superior tactics and determination. The confrontation between Hyun-woo and Emperor Vex Tar in the Imperial throne room represented the ultimate victory of human courage over alien oppression. The Korean general who had started the war as a simple special forces officer now faced the ruler of a galactic empire that was crumbling around him. Vex Tar demanded to know how primitive humans had defeated the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Hyun-woo explained that the emperor had made a fundamental mistake by assuming that technological superiority guaranteed victory. The Vorthan Empire had conquered through fear and overwhelming force, but had never faced an enemy that refused to surrender. The emperor's surrender marked the end of the Vorthan Empire and the beginning of a new era of freedom for the galaxy. The enslaved species that had suffered under alien rule for centuries were finally free to determine their own destinies. The humans had not only saved themselves but had liberated an entire galaxy. So Young's demolitions expertise had proven crucial, not just in destroying enemy installations, but in carefully preserving captured technology that would benefit all the liberated species. The weapons and equipment of the former empire would be shared among the alliance members to ensure that no single species could dominate the other's men. Host sniper techniques had been taught to marksmen from dozens of different species, creating a new generation of precision fighters who could defend their worlds against any future threats. The psychological impact of knowing that freedom fighters existed throughout the galaxy would prevent future empires from attempting conquest. Jiho established a galactic communication network that connected all the liberated worlds and allowed formerly enslaved species to share technology knowledge and culture for the first time in centuries. The electronic warfare methods that had defeated the Vorthans were now being used to build bridges between different civilizations. The aftermath of the war saw the establishment of the Galactic Freedom Alliance, with Earth as its coordinating center but with equal representation for all member species. The humans had learned that true victory meant helping others achieve their own independence, rather than simply replacing one empire with another. General Hyun-woo was offered the position of Supreme Commander of the Alliance forces, but chose instead to return to Earth, where he established the Interstellar Defense Academy. His original team became the core faculty teaching the next generation of defenders how to protect freedom throughout the galaxy. The story of how a small special operations team from Earth had sparked a galactic revolution became legend throughout the known worlds. Parents on dozens of planets told their children about the humans who had refused to surrender and had taught the galaxy that courage and determination could overcome any obstacle. Earth itself became a symbol of hope and resistance that inspired oppressed peoples throughout the galaxy. The planet that had once faced extinction was now the center of a civilization dedicated to ensuring that no species would ever again suffer under imperial rule. The Vorthan species itself was not destroyed, but was given the chance to rebuild their society without the imperial system that had defined them for millennia. Many former Vorthan soldiers joined the Alliance forces and helped hunt down war criminals who had committed atrocities during the Empire's reign. The technological advances gained from the war allowed humanity to explore distant galaxies and make contact with civilizations that had never been touched by the Vorthan Empire. Earth became the launching point for peaceful exploration missions that carried the message of freedom and cooperation to the farthest reaches of space. In the end, the greatest victory was not military but philosophical. The galaxy had learned that no species was inherently superior to another, and that freedom was a right that belonged to all intelligent life. The humans had given the galaxy something more valuable than advanced weapons. They had given it hope. The legacy of Task Force Phoenix and the Korean-American officer who had refused to surrender to alien invaders would inspire countless generations of freedom fighters throughout the cosmos. Humanity had answered the question of whether courage could triumph over superior technology with a resounding yes that echoed across the stars.